Well, hello, TRTA members and TRTA supporters. My name is Tim Lee. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Retired Teachers Association, and I am very happy to be coming to you from a beautiful downtown Austin, as opposed to what was a week ago, an ice storm that shut all of us out of last week's presentation. So we have a lot to catch up on, but the most important thing that I want to say to y'all today is hello. Thank you for being a part of our organization. Thank you so much for being part of this broadcast. And I am going to try to keep it within a reasonable amount of time. I know I always say this, and I'm trying to keep an eye on comments as well. And I want to say hello to Wanda and Peggy both, who have already checked in on the stream. And for all of you who are going to watch this after we record it live, just remember we do this live recording every Thursday at 4 o'clock. It is our intention to try and keep this schedule every week. And we want to bring you the latest news and updates from the Texas Capitol. And there's been a lot that's been going on. We're going to do a little bit of a recap since last week. The Senate Finance Committee started their work on SB 1, which is the Senate version of the budget. And there were a number of items that were covered in the budget. It's kind of a general overview. Then we had the ice storm and everything shut down. And then we started this week, as many of you know, with a review of education and all realms of K-12 public education, including Texas Education Agency, and of course for us, the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. And for those of you who are receiving our Inside Line, which is our email newsletter, you already had a chance to see some of the comments that TRTA made about the budget process. And I'm going to cover some of that this week so that you all know what's going on. And we've had a lot of activity, and I've taken some notes so that we do make sure that we cover the information that you're going to need to know. So, but again, I'll say hi to, we've got David here from the Panhandle. Oh my gosh, it's snowing in the Panhandle. Oh, I'm sure it's pretty, but I'm sort of done with snow and ice for a little bit. And then I see that we've got a lot of folks that are still joining in. So again, thanks y'all for being here. And as we said, we started covering the budget items and what's going on with TRS. So let me talk a little bit about the budget as it stands for the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. The first thing that I really want to point out about the current budget is that the Teacher Retirement System is receiving full funding for the TRS pension fund, as well as the TRS health insurance program. And I want to spend just a couple minutes about why I think that's a very important step. We had in 2019 a major piece of legislation that was passed that was known at the time as SB 12 or Senate Bill 12. As I testified earlier this week, Senate Bill 12 was really a watershed moment for the TRS because it was an approach that the legislature committed to upping or increasing its funding to TRS over 3 consecutive legislative sessions. The legislature has, for several years now, because of the work of our friends in the legislature and certainly at the insistence of the Retired Teachers of Texas and TRTA, focused on funding, making sure that our benefits program was going to be on a path to a secure funding horizon after several years of neglecting the funding that was required by the legislature to the TRS fund. And if you all had a chance to see the testimony that TRTA did, you know that from 1985 until 2005, the legislature had a statutorily required contribution level, which was 8%. And over those 20 years, the legislature funded considerably less than the statutory required amount, which cost the system about $4.6 billion in total contributions over that period of time. After 2005, the legislature essentially removed the statutory requirement of 8% and essentially said, hey, we're going to fund whatever the budget allocation is. So we probably needed a higher level of funding after 2005, but it was only until then that the state statute actually required that 8% funding contribution, and we didn't actually get that amount. And so that 4.6 billion only is representative of the dollars that should have been coming in from the funding level. It does not represent the amount of money that we did not earn in interest on that $4.6 billion. And so over that horizon of time, the funding of TRS has been a major, major problem. And then in 2019, as you all know, as I said earlier, we passed Senate Bill 12, which increased the state's funding to TRS to the highest levels that it has been in probably 3 decades. And I think today that funding amount is around 8.25% from the state. So the reason that's important in this budget discussion is that from 2019 until this legislative session, the legislature provided a stair-step approach into those funding levels. And so in 2019, they committed to a certain amount. In 2021, they committed to a certain amount, which was higher. And then in 2023, they committed to a certain amount, which is even higher than that. And so this budget is introduced, has funded those stair steps up all the way to that highest level without the effort that we as an organization or other stakeholder groups would have to work together to come in and try to get those amounts that were promised to us in Senate Bill 12. And so we really do want to commend and thank Chair Joan Huffman of the Senate Finance Committee, as well as all of the Senate Finance Committee members, for starting out the base budget with the included revenue that we need for the system so that we stay on that stair-step approach and that we see that full funding. So that is excellent news. And it's something that I think all of us can consider an early in this cycle budget victory from where we sort of have been to where we are today. So that's good news. The other item that is in the budget that is part of our funding is that the legislature has fully funded the TRS Care program. There was a lot of conversation in this last Senate Finance Committee on Monday about the difference between TRS Care and TRS Active Care. So I'll mention that just briefly. TRS Care, of course, is the health insurance program that covers a little over 240,000 lives. And I don't have those numbers in front of me, but all of the retirees who participate in TRS Care in 2017, as many of you remember, that health insurance program was going to enter into a death spiral only because of the work that the legislature and the Retired Teachers Association and the TRS and other stakeholders all partnered together. We stopped that death spiral from happening. We did have a lot of program changes that unfortunately had the impact of pushing more of those costs onto the retirees' pocketbooks, but it kept alive a very feature-rich health insurance program for our 65 and over population, as well as our under age 65 retiree population, that includes the important benefits of not only medical care and doctor care, but also prescription drug care. And so we saved that program in 2017. And over that period of time, the legislature has maintained those funding levels. And in this budget as well, those contribution amounts are fully funded for TRS Care in this budget. And so again, we really are grateful for that because it saves us from having to try to spend valuable time, energy, and effort in working with committee members on bringing those levels back to where they should be. And it's never a guarantee that from one budget to a next you're going to see those levels where they need to be. But again, we have great leadership right now in the Senate Finance Committee, and I'm sure we will with the House Appropriations Committee as well. And we're going to talk about that also today. That introduced budget sees that our healthcare program is funded. Now, I mentioned active care. Many people do not always know the nomenclature of these programs, but TRS Care is the retiree program, and it's functioning pretty well right now. And then you have another program called Active Care, TRS Active Care, which is a health insurance program for our active school employees and school districts that are participating. I think it's got over 400,000 insured lives in that program. And last session, there were some federal dollars that were made available to the legislature that shored up some of the costs in active care. Those dollars are not there now from the federal government. And so the legislature is having an in-depth conversation about how health insurance for our active school employees may need to be addressed. Just so you know and can stay informed, because a lot of our members are active teachers, but we also have a lot of retirees whose family members are still in the active school arena. I believe the TRS was saying that if they don't find some way to shore up the TRS Active Care program, those premiums could be in the 20+% range increase for our active teachers. And that health insurance program is already very expensive. It varies district by district because there's an allocation that comes from the state, which is uniform, but then the districts can choose to put in the amount that they want to put in. Those levels have not changed in many ways for a long time. And so that program continues to be very expensive for our active school employees. And it will be an item that gets addressed at some point during this legislative session. So for TRS Care, well-funded, maintaining the program like it is. And we'll see if the legislature has any other comments or changes on TRS Care in the coming days. But right now, from a budget standpoint, we're looking pretty good. So then that gets us to the conversation about a benefit enhancement for retirees. And as some of you may have seen in our update, there is what we call a budget rider, which is language in the budget that suggests that there might be something else coming related to TRS and TRS retirees. Specifically for our retirees, there is what we call Budget Rider 21. And this is some language that's included in the budget that says if the system meets various actuarial values, that the legislature may come back and include additional revenue for some kind of benefit increase, whether that be a 13th check or a cost of living raise. And I don't have the language in front of me, so please don't think that they are saying it's that they have a preference yet for one versus the other. I just don't remember how it's written in the rider. The most important thing for us to know is that there is budget language there that says, hey, look, legislative members, at some point in time during the legislative session, as we continue this budget process, we're going to come back and talk about the specifics of some benefit enhancement for retirees. That has not yet been decided. And I can see a big note on a Facebook commenter. I think I see Mike, who's on Facebook, has put that language in there. So Mike, thank you. 5 stars to you for copying and pasting that language in there and for helping me out. So if you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through comments, you can see that rider that's been included. So thank you so much to one of our TRTA members and commenters on that. So this is the nature of kind of where we are today. It's very early in the process. We have laid out our TRTA agenda. We sat through 6 or 7 hours of a hearing on Monday, and we did testify. We really want to thank our retirees that were there, and Craig Campbell, who is one of our TRTA members from the Austin RTA, showed up and testified and laid out some of the needs of retirees. So grateful for his comments. And we laid out from our state association several points that we wanted to make, which probably first and foremost was that we're grateful for where we are. We're thankful for what we're seeing happening already, that we as an organization are supporting a cost of living raise for our retirees this session, and that we want a seat at the table. And so We're asking that this process continue to move forward and that TRTA is able to bring lots of different suggestions and ideas to the leadership in the legislature and hopefully get us to the end of session with a meaningful and substantial raise for our retirees. Again, early in the process, there's no way anybody can make any predictions at this point in time about which way this thing is going. It takes a lot of hard work and effort, and it's going to take a lot of communication and participation in this process. To that end, I want to show our retirees and our TRTA members a little bit about what is going on. And so, Roy, I know you've got a slide queued up that shows some of the work that we have been doing. If you can go ahead and show that Excel spreadsheet slide. And this it may be a little bit difficult for you all to see what is going on here, but this is a list of several pages when you print this out of the visits that your fellow TRTA members have been doing for the last week. We just completed our very last visit for this week with elected officials. And as Roy is scrolling down, you will see that these members have been here all week long, visiting with our elected officials and their staff, communicating about the need for a raise for our retirees. And so I really want to express my sincere appreciation to districts. Roy, scroll back up to the top if you don't, because I don't want to get this wrong. I know we had districts 8, 9, 10, and 11. We also had districts 12, 13, 14, and 15, but we also had a number of districts that were coming back from the previous week when we had our ice storm, which included districts 4 and 20. And I probably will miss a few others, but if you look at these names, you've got Jane Eichsman, you've got Richard Herbst. Roy, scroll down. We've got Dee Palmer. We've got Barbara Williams. We've got Alicia Smith. We've got Thomas Poore, Jeannie Paul Turner, Molly Long, and I think Jim Palmer was also here from the Abilene area. We just had so many visits that were happening this week. And you can come back to me, Roy, on the camera. So many of our members spend a considerable amount of their time volunteering to be here for hours and hours and hours, walking that building from the 4th floor of the Capitol all the way down to the 2nd floor of the basement, visiting our elected officials. And I want to tell each one of them, thank you. I'm not sure if they're watching today. As a matter of fact, I know several of them are not because they're driving home after spending a week here. But I want to thank each and every one of you and your districts for supporting this effort. And we are looking forward to next week as we bring in our next legislative teams. And this is being coordinated from our state legislative committee, our board of directors. We had Mary Widmeyer, who is our legislative coordinator, with Marcy Cann, who's our state association president. Ella Gaucher was here this week. And of course, the entire TRTA Capital team. Y'all, we are working every day to try and make an impactful difference on this major issue for our members. We know that this is our number one state priority for us in this legislative session. And we have had a great week of meeting with our elected officials. And again, we had a mixture of elected officials, state senators, state representatives, and legislative staffers, all who were spending a lot of time listening to our needs. We were delivering, of course, our talking points page, providing information and details, and talking about bills that are either being filed or could be filed to help retirees this session. So again, thank you, everyone. Here's what I'm asking all of you to do. I would very much appreciate if you, as a TRTA member and participant and supporter, would go on social media. If you are on social media already and you feel comfortable, please go on and communicate with your elected official about our needs for a COLA, and please let them know that we are grateful for their time and effort. As we have talked about in the past, it is common for Facebook or social media to be a very negative place. And so it's so unfortunately negative these days that it's more common to see negative than it is to see something positive. And so if we are on there saying something positive, then I do think we stick out in a way that is beneficial to our cause. The other items that have been happening this week, besides all of these visits, we had this week and last week the naming of some committees. And as I said, with the ice storm, we got a little behind in talking about this. But I want to talk about our Senate committees first. Roy, if you could cue up the Senate committees. We pay attention to two committees, not exclusively, but pretty close. Following the Senate Finance Committee and another one they're going to talk about in a second. But if you look on the screen now and you're watching this and you see on our Senate Finance Committee, of course, the chair is Joan Huffman. The vice chair is Senator Chuy Hinojosa. But the members of Senate Finance include Senators Paul Bettencourt, Donna Campbell, Brandon Creighton, Pete Flores, Bob Hall, Kelly Hancock, Brian Hughes, Lois Kolkhorst, Robert Nichols, Angela Paxton, Charles Perry, Charles Schwartner, Royce West, John Whitmire, and Judith Zaffarini. And if you heard your senator's name read, again, I would very, very much like to encourage you to engage with these folks either in social media or in just reaching out to them or talking to their staff and encouraging them through this process. Let's talk about State Affairs, which is the other committee that we pay a lot of attention to because there are TRS matters that will go through the Senate State Affairs Committee. This committee is chaired by Brian Hughes. The vice chair is Angela Paxton. The members for the State Affairs Committee are Paul Bettencourt, Brian Birdwell, Morgan LaMantia, Jose Menendez, Mays Middleton, Tan Parker, Charles Perry, Charles Schwartner, and Judith Zaffarini. You probably recognize several names, some that serve on appropriate or on Senate Finance and State Affairs. There are only 31 members of the Texas Senate, and so they spread that work out quite a little bit, just among fewer people. And so you have some of that overlap. So again, I would encourage you all to develop these relationships and continue to make contact with your senator while we are getting ready for the other work that's being done. Now, if you are a TRTA member and you're from District 8, 9, 10, 11, or 20, 13, whatever ones that I said earlier, I don't have that screen in front of me, we would highly encourage you to reach out to your senator as well and make a follow-up phone call. Roy, you can come back to me on camera. I'm going to talk about House committees in just a second. But here's one of the things that's great about TRTA. We have a statewide organization that is very active on the phones, on the emails, and on social media. And what would be really great for us as a group is that you know that we made our district visits this week. And Roy, go ahead and put that screen back up there where we were doing our district visits. So if you're looking, if you're a TRTA member from 8, 9, 10, 11, y'all, my Windows just tried to restart the computer. So I apologize. I had to tell it no. Live television, we've had this conversation before. Anyway, if you're District 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 4, or 20, we have been visiting with these elected officials all week. And so if you're from one of those districts, a local chapter from one of those districts, or you just live in San Antonio or Houston area, or the Dallas area, the Fort Worth area, the Abilene area, the far kind of East Texas area, please reach out to these elected officials and let them know that while you may not have been here personally, you know that TRTA's district representatives were there and that we're wanting to see the legislature work on a cost of living raise for retirees. Final thing I'll say about the Senate, Roy, you can come off that screen. Final thing I'll say about the Senate is I want to thank all of you that clicked on the inside line message this last week, we had every member of the Texas Senate receive a number of emails from our TRTA members asking for support on a cost of living raise. And so again, we're increasing our communication. And if you did not have an opportunity to sign on to that email campaign, please understand there will be more. So be ready to do those email messaging. It does make a difference. I know some of you have commented to me already and said, hey, I've sent all the letters I'm going to send. If they don't know by now that I need an increase, then they don't know. And that isn't necessarily the reason why we're doing these emails, these email campaigns that we're doing during session. This legislature is full of groups coming in and asking for help. And every legislative session, we're in competition with somebody who is trying to get more of the revenue for their item. And I'm sure it's an important item. But when there's $32.7 billion extra dollars on the table, and that building back there is trying to make all the decisions about how to spend it, I promise you, there are far more groups coming to the Capitol now than I have ever seen. I've been here. This is my 10th legislative session. Been doing this in Texas for nearly 20 years, and I've seen that building full. I don't know that I've seen it as full as it is now. So we have to be even more on top of communicating with these elected officials. So please help us keep up that level of communication. All right. So let us take a look at the House committees, and then I'm going to try to go back and look at some of the comments that have been made. So on our House committees, the House committees are fresh off the press, folks. These were just named yesterday, and we follow a couple of committees in the House as well, where we're always going to show up. So the first one that you're looking here on the screen is the House Pensions, Investments, and Financial Services Committee. The chair of this, Roy, I think we've got the slide from the previous legislative session. I don't think this is the correct slide. I'll come back and talk about that. The new chair of the House Pensions Committee is Giovanni Capriglione, who has been a good friend of ours for a number of sessions, a number of years. Rafael Anchia was the chairman of the House Pensions Committee last legislative session, also a very good friend of ours. And Representative Anchia has been kind of moved around. There's been a lot of movement on the House side of bringing in different folks on different committees. And we'll talk about the House appropriations and pensions in just a second. I know Roy is working, and I'm trying to keep an eye on Roy to give me a thumbs up when he has the new committees, and he's working on it. So, and I may be able to pull those up as too. Again, it's live television. So I'm going to take a look here at just some of our comments that people are making. A lot of comments of folks saying, thank you for the effort. Let me tell you right now, y'all, we are far more in your debt for the work that you all put into this. I see Alicia is here. I did see Jeannie Paul Turner earlier. So she's definitely working, burning the candle at both ends, trying to make sure that we are working. All right. So while Roy is trying to pull those slides up, and I know he's working on that, there's a comment here from Marjorie where on Facebook she's saying, where has Brady gone with the WEP? Is that off the table? Y'all, I know that sometimes we seem like we talk a lot about state legislative items, and then there are times that we really focus in on our federal legislative items. But please know that the association runs a full-time legislative agenda for both the state legislative activities as well as our Capitol Hill legislative outreach. And so, as some of you know, with the legislative session in Texas going on only every other year for 140 days, we really ramp up some of our communication about seizing the moment for that. But it doesn't mean that there isn't work that is going on for our federal program as well. And so I'll go ahead and mention, as some of you know, Chairman Brady, who was in the he was in the U.S. Congress for a number of years, has already retired. And after he retired, and the bill did not pass in the last Congress, we are having to sort of start again. And so that's why we worked so hard on that issue at the end of December, trying to get that passed. And those bills are being reintroduced. There are other members that are taking that up and that are working to get that accomplished. And so we're going to bring you a more complete update on what is happening with the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset in a few weeks. All of the bills that have been introduced in the past are being reintroduced. There are bills, of course, calling for the full repeal of the weapon GPO. I believe that bill is, again, H.R. 82. It was last congressional cycle. It is, again, this congressional cycle. There will be other bills that get reintroduced. And so we'll bring you more of an update on weapon GPO in the coming weeks. This Congress is going to be particularly difficult. And this is an official Tim Lee opinion statement. Having watched the State of the Union and kind of kept an eye on all of the communications that have happened, like all of you, about what's happening in Washington, D.C., it does feel like things are getting more and more challenging to even get a positive hearing on some of these issues. So we're going to have to take it one day at a time on Capitol Hill, but we are pushing for the repeal of weapon GPO and trying to fix that situation. So, all right, Roy, I know you've put on the screen now, it looks like a live picture of the House Pensions Committee. And this is chaired by Representative Capriglione. Stan Lambert, a good friend of mine out in Abilene, is the vice chair. And then we also have on this committee a number of new faces. And so if these folks are yours, please start communicating with them. We've got Representative Solomon, Representative Bryant, Representative Frazier, Representative Leo Wilson, Representative, my eyes are not as good as they used to be, Roy. It's hard for me to see that. Pisa, we've got Representative Van Dever and Representative Vo, all serving on pensions committee. So this is a pretty new committee. Representative Capriglione has been a longtime supporter and friend of TRTA. I don't know that there are too many people that could have been better picks for chair. Always love working with Chairman Anchia, and I'm sure that he would agree that a new chair, Capriglione, is a great person for us to continue on the legacy of pensions work in the state of Texas. So very, very supportive and grateful for what we may have coming in the days ahead with this committee. All right. So do we have, Roy, the Committee for Appropriations, which is a much bigger committee, and he's pulling that up for us right now. Thank you very much, Roy. So on this committee, we have Greg Bonin, who is chairman. We have Mary Gonzalez. Oh, thank you so much, Roy. Mary Gonzalez. Somebody's probably making a comment right now about Tim needs his eyes checked. So Mary Gonzalez is vice chair, and then Steve Allison. We've got Representative Bell, Representative Bryant, Representative DeAlva, Representative Gary Gates, Representative Gervin Hawkins. She's from the San Antonio area. Representative Donna Howard is here from Austin area. Representative Isaac is from my neck of the woods in Dripping Springs. Then we've got Representative Jetton, Representative Jarvis Johnson, Representative Armando Martinez. I'm going to stop saying representative. It just gets to be very difficult. Trey Martinez Fisher, Jeannie Morrison, Angela Orr. We got Evelina Ortega, Tony Rose, David Spiller, Len Stuckey, Carl Tepper, Kronda Demesh. That's somebody I've got to get to know a little bit better. Ed Thompson, Steve Toth, that I've known for a number of years. Gary Van Dever again. He's also on pensions. Armando Wally and Gene Wu. So excellent committees for us to get to know and work with. And again, if you heard your representative's name on either pensions or appropriations, I hate to say this, but you might have a little extra work to do with us this coming legislative session as those committees really start working on budget items and pensions items. Okay, y'all, I think that is the update for this week. We had great work from our teams. We had the opportunity to testify in Senate Finance. We continue to promote our legislative agenda for a cost of living raise. I'm taking a look here. Y'all are doing a great job checking in. Thank you so much for being here. We've seen Austin. I've seen El Paso. I've seen Dallas, I've seen Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, seeing a lot of our folks that are really working hard to make sure that, oh, I see a comment, we need a substantial increase, agree to that wholeheartedly. Looking at all the comments, we'll try to answer as many of these in the coming days as we can. But for now, thank you very much. My hope is that we will continue to work hard. I'm going to ask that y'all work to recruit a new member. We need more people added into our ranks as much as we can. And let's stay positive. Let's continue our communications. And if you want to put in your questions that you have in this Facebook or on YouTube, whether it's live or after the fact, I'm going to try to start building some of those questions into the coming weeks ahead. And so again, y'all, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. We'll be back here next week and hopefully have a more in-depth report about how the COLA conversation is developing in the Texas legislature. Early days, but we are making good progress. So thanks so much. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.